All right, welcome everyone to Chicago Football Connection podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. You follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears, joined by my co-host, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. So right today we're doing a mock draft. So we spent a couple weeks on free agency and what that means for the Bears, who they're going to sign, stuff like that. We know who they have now. They've traded out of their first overall pick. We have a much better idea of what their needs are. So we figured now is a good time to go through a mock draft. We had a big pro day today with Ohio State, and things became a little bit clearer. So again, we're going to go through a mock draft. We're going to do the PFF mock draft simulator.
Yeah, do you want to actually talk about? Let's talk about what you think about the advanced settings first. So I've done this a couple of times. I like to do. I think where the PFF public board is usually pretty good because PFF sometimes can kind of be off in their own corner with some of their opinions. It doesn't mean that they're wrong, but usually the public board reflects better how like the general managers will be drafting. So I think that's good. Do you want to maybe put the care for positional value a little higher? Because I feel like that's almost the way of the world in the last couple drafts.
I was going to suggest that as well. I think that's a good idea. I think more teams are, drafting for positional value and just best player available more than needs. So I think we should also turn down the needs to maybe just a little bit.
If you wanted to, bring them somewhere to the middle, I bet that would probably be the best representation of what we could expect.
Do you think that's good? I just went one direction.
Yep.
That's good. Okay. And then I want to keep randomness keep the same.
No, there's always a Clellan Farrell, but
Yeah, we'll keep that the same for now, just because we're still a month out, so there are going to be some surprises. But let's just go with what we think is going to happen. I turned it up all the way one time, and I got like Will Anderson in the third round. So we don't need to do that. But I think that's a good place to start. So we have the Bears picking 9th. Obviously, we're going to do 7 rounds. We're going to keep the speed slow a little bit because we don't need to rush through this. But so I think before we actually start this simulation, I think we want to talk about. So we talked a little bit about the Bears trading it down and their strategy there. But one thing that came out when Poles made that trade is he said he had 7 guys on his board that he'd feel comfortable taking at 9. So maybe we talk about who those guys are before we get into this. You still there?
Yeah. I mean, so Poles has said that, and all of the writing that we've heard about the trade since is that the position of trading back from 1 to 9 had to do with, he said 6 to 7 players that were blue chip that, if he had the opportunity to take in that stretch, he would, and that he didn't really want to trade out of that slot. And then that got into why DJ Moore was included. But if you can expect a run on quarterbacks, like you can expect a run on quarterbacks, you can expect there to be, 2 or 3 of those players that he was mentioning available at that spot.
Right. Yeah. So I think, if we're talking about those 6, 7 guys, who are we talking about? We're talking about Will Anderson, Tyree
Wilson. The Ohio State boys, I would say there's a good chance that both of them are on those, Jackson Smith-Njigba and Paris Johnson.
I'm okay with putting both those in there. I would say one of the corners at least. I don't know which one they have higher on their board.
Gonzalez isn't shooting up boards. I've always been a Witherspoon guy, but to be honest, I've started to kind of I definitely still have Witherspoon as my CB1, but man, Gonzalez's tape is about as good as anyone in the class not named Witherspoon, and he's the best athlete in the class.
Best athlete and position, a valuable position.
Exactly. That's a big part of it too. Poles has showed his hand, with those other teams that are really run well in the league, like the Eagles and like the Chiefs. He's going to put a premium on the guys that are going to protect the passer, the guys that are going to rush the passer, and the guys that are going to be catching the passes, and the guys defending the passes.
Right. So that's 5, if we say, and then I think Jalen Carter would be 6, because when he said that was before all this Jalen Carter stuff. So he was definitely in that.
Skoronski probably there.
Skoronski, maybe. Lucas Van Ness, maybe. I think those 2 guys are.
That's 8.
That's 8-ish. I think that's who we're going to be targeting with this first pick. So let's enter the draft.
I would say too that this is when mock drafts are going to be fun for the next month and a half. Fans like us, we know who they have, the needs they've kind of filled in free agency. I know a lot of people think that the answer to the needs that they filled is none, but it is what it is. Free agency, we've had some spots filled. I actually think that the Walker signing is nice for the D line. The Davis signing is nice for the O line. And now you could argue that there probably is maybe 1 or 2 linebacker rooms in the league better than ours. So there's definitely been some improvement through free agency, but there's still some holes remaining. But now we know where we're drafting and we know the needs that we need.
Yep. And I think with this first pick, I know everyone wants a right tackle and I want a right tackle too, but I don't think I think everything we've seen from Poles is that he's not going to draft a right tackle just to get a right tackle. He's going to go best player available, especially with this first pick. So,
and I think you agree too. There's a really, really nice sweet spot near the end of the first and all through the second for right tackles, in tackles as a whole, that you can probably, because I mean, you wrote an awesome piece about it today. There really is some nice, considerations at that spot for that position. You might not be able to get someone like a Darnell Wright in the second anymore. His stock is really, really, I feel like a lot of people have warmed up to how good his game is over the last couple months. But even then, like Matt Bergeron, a Blake Freeland, we'll get into that. But there's a sweet spot in the second round for tackles. So I don't think Bears fans should panic if it isn't an offensive lineman in the first round, or at least not a tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start this and we'll take it slow here and we kind of see who goes. So let's start the draft.
From a general fan point of view, it does kind of seem like that CJ Stroud is in a really nice spot at 1 for Carolina, but I've heard rumors that could even be Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. It seemed like they had a heavy presence at the Ohio State Pro Day today. So I think it's probably going to be CJ Stroud. I think Richardson's just too much of a gamble to take with the first overall pick, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, I think Anthony Richardson is solidly in front of Will Levis at this point.
Oh yeah.
And I think the Texans like Bryce Young. So I think that CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, those first 2 picks is pretty reasonable. The Cardinals in this situation going Christian Gonzalez is, you don't see that mocked a lot, but it's certainly possible. You don't know. Cornerback's a premium position. I'm sure the Cardinals need a cornerback. Colts went with a quarterback. That's pretty much a given at this point. Will Anderson to 5.
I think if the Colts stay at 4 and get Anthony Richardson, they're over the moon.
Oh yeah, they're happy with that.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. That buys a Ballard a few more years. Will Anderson at 5. That makes sense. Tyree Wilson at 6. Will Levis at 7. And then Jalen Carter at 8. So this is, I think, most likely going to be maybe not in this exact order, but I like maybe Will Anderson goes 3, Christian Gonzalez goes 6 or something like that. But
yeah,
these 8 guys,
the people you see there are the ones that you'll see going there. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of candidates in there for trade backs and for some moving around that obviously I think just for simplicity purposes doesn't make sense for us to kind of like simulate. But the Cardinals are in a really good position if someone wants to move up and with some vindication for their guy. And even the Falcons, the Falcons are in a position where you could take the best player available, or you could try and draft back and say, hey, we have a bunch of needs and we'd rather have a bunch of players than like one great player, which you can get into if you agree with it or not. But I think you could maybe expect to see some movements before the Bears pick, but I think the people that you've seen pick make a lot of sense.
Yep, 100%. I think if a team is going to, I do agree the Falcons seem like a team that might want to trade down, just, to get more ammunition for them. And I think given the Bears free agency, and everyone knows the Bears need a right tackle, if someone is going to trade up to 8, it's probably going to get to get Paris Johnson, would be my guess.
But
if that happens, he looked awesome today. He's certainly worth the 9th pick, and we might even take him here. But I do think if let's say that does happen, let's say that the Falcons trade back, someone trades up to get Paris Johnson, then you're looking at Jalen Carter falling in your lap, or Tyree Wilson, or Will Anderson, even maybe if someone jumps you to take Paris Johnson. So if that does happen, you still get a good defender.
I have been meaning to ask you this: if Jalen Carter falls 9, has what happened in the last month? Has it been enough to deter you from taking him? Because he looked bad at that pro day. He looked worse. What's worse than he looked bad is he looked almost uninterested. And I know the guy is going through a lot right now, but I don't know. It was worrisome.
Yeah, to me, I would still take him at 9, 100%. Anyone you're drafting at 9 off that top. I mean, would I take if they traded with the Colts and they were at 4? Would I take him there? I don't know. I'd probably go with Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson. But at 9, I mean, he's way better than like Lucas Van Ness or Kalijah Cansey if you're going with a defender. So assuming everything checks out and the team likes him, I would be absolutely fine with Carter at 9. Yeah. What about you? How are you feeling if that's the case?
I'm a little bit more worried by it, but I think if he's the thing is this 9th pick is important for the Bears.
That's true. And you have to hit on this.
Before, Carter was so easy because his floor was sky high. And now I don't think his ceiling has changed at all, but his floor has been like considerably lowered. And that's
fair.
And I
That's
think
fair, but you're getting him at 9. So at 9, you
little different.
draft,
But the
anyone
problem
you
is,
draft at 9, their floor is gonna be low anyway. So
I guess, but the problem is if you have those concerns, and when you're picking at 9, Skoronski, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Devin Witherspoon, Paris Johnson are all there, it starts to muddy the water a little bit. Because before, I mean, a month and a half ago, I would have run to the podium if he was there at 3 or 4. But now at 9, it's like, I don't know. I guess there are other prospects that maybe you could argue have a little bit of a higher floor now. Still, I don't think very many have the ceiling that he does, but that's just the nature of the beast with character concerns.
Yeah, and I'm at the point where I'd be thrilled if they got him, if they picked him at 9. If someone picks them and picks Carter in front of the Bears, I'm fine with that. If they pass on Carter, I'm fine with that too. Like I trust them to do their due diligence.
I think that is what it boils down to, is that Poles and Eberflus have kind of made a big, not a big push or like comment or anything about that, but character is important for them and work ethic's important for them. And that I could see someone like a Carter falling down their board because of it. But by the same merit, if they do take him, I'd trust that, since it's so important for them, they've done their due diligence to believe that he's still worth that pick.
Yep, for sure. And if they do pass on him and someone behind them takes him and he goes on to be the best defensive tackle in football, I'm really not going to blame them for passing on him.
Yeah.
So,
but neither here nor there, he's been taken. So Devin Witherspoon,
exactly.
I think to some extent, just straight up, Devin Witherspoon, it's hard for me to look away from him. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. Me and you were both working on having a nice big board for when the draft comes out. And when that comes out, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Witherspoon is a top 5 prospect on my board.
Yeah, he's really good. So right now, Christian Gonzalez is a top 5 prospect on my board. So I have Christian Gonzalez 1, but Devin Witherspoon, I forget where I had him, but he's solidly in the top 12 probably. Yep. I don't exactly remember, but he's solidly in there. But yeah, really good year this year. I think he would be definitely in contention.
Good run defender, good like on a snap-by-snap basis, probably the best coverage defender in the nation last year. I mean, he was like legitimately locked down. I think some people may have some concerns with his size. He's slightly on the underside of things. I think he's like 5'10", almost 5'10" flat, but he doesn't play like that. He plays like he's 6'5".
He plays bigger. He's my bigger concern is he's 181 pounds, and there haven't been many 180-pound corners who have been good.
I did a very similar deep dive into cornerbacks that had his weight and was a little alarmed. But I also worry that receivers are not worried. I think receivers are getting smaller. I don't think it would surprise me if over the next 5 years we see a little bit of a shift from your typical cornerback being 210, 205 to maybe something like a 190. And if that's the case, Devin Witherspoon's not too out of place. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. And he, like you said, he doesn't play small. So if it's not a concern on tape, his weight shouldn't really be a huge difference. So I do think he'd be in play here.
I don't think Quentin Johnson's on play for me. I think you'd agree. I don't think
not at 9.
No, Kalijah Kancey, great player, not in play at 9. I mean, theoretically, I think there is a very good chance that the Bears trade down. There's actually been a lot of smoke from Poles himself about that possibility. So if we trade down even like 7 or 8 picks and Kancey's there, he's definitely worth the look. But at 9, I just don't think the value fits.
Yeah, a little high. So I think, obviously JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba is definitely in play. Skoronski, I think it's a little high for Skoronski just because he's most likely a guard. And we've seen the Bears, we've heard the Bears talk about length extensively this draft
100%.
cycle. And if there's one poster child for a lack of length, it's Peter Skoronski. So I just don't think they're going to value him as high as other teams might. And especially drafting a guard in the top 10 is a risky proposition. So I don't think he would be in play at pick 9. Maybe if they trade down, like you said.
I think he will be in play because I think that the Bears will just say, hey, as a guard prospect, he's probably blue chip. But I'm fine not taking him here too.
Sure. Yeah.
Ryan Branch is shooting up my board, dude.
Ryan Branch is good.
The more I think that he might be the best like single man coverage, slot coverage player in the draft.
Yeah, he's really good. So I know he's listed as a safety here, and people might say, oh, we don't need a safety, but he's really a slot corner. Is really what he plays. And he's very good coverage, very good in run support. He kind of does it all, plays that star position for Nick Saban in Alabama. So he could be maybe a sleeper pick that, we're not considering, but I think if I had to pick between him and Devin Witherspoon, I'd probably go Witherspoon if I'm going a corner.
Yep. I mean, I think to be fair, like we can go over all these prospects. From what we've seen and where there's smoke, there's fire. It really feels like at 9 with the way that this board has fallen, It's between, Paris Johnson,
Mhm.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Lucas Van Ness and Devin Witherspoon. I'd say it's 4 guys. Do you of those 4 have a favorite?
I would say the guy who's probably highest on my board of those 4, I think, is Witherspoon. I think it would go, or maybe it's, I can't remember. I have it all right now, but I think it would be Witherspoon, JSN, Ness, Johnson. But I feel like in this scenario, I'm actually leaning Johnson, even though I might have those other guys ranked higher than
Paris Johnson. I will say Paris Johnson talking about how he's willing to be, any position on the offensive line, and like that, just to some extent, the competitive nature that comes with a comment like that, legitimately something that simple has really like intrigued me and raised him up my like not board as far as like tape, but raised him up my like favorites for the Bears situation. Because if he was like determined to stick into left tackle, that kind of causes a problem that I've been trying to voice on Twitter the last couple months about how I feel like people are sleeping on Braxton Jones. But if he's going to come in and say, I want to be the best lineman I can be and start and play and compete anywhere I can play, I think that he would be an awesome choice.
Yeah, I think you're drafting Paris Johnson for the player he can be, not the player he is right now. And not that I'm saying he's a bad player right now, far from it. But he's so athletic. He's so long.
Yeah,
he only had tools. He only had 1 year as a starter at left tackle and really held his own. I mean, he had some hiccups here and there, but the grades were pretty good. And that was his first year at left tackle at the collegiate level, at least.
Yeah.
So the fact that he has
there are some things about his game that we think definitely need to improve, but they're nothing that can't be improved, and nothing that I don't think that he could, to some extent turn into a strength over time. He has all the physical capabilities to be one of the better players at that position in the NFL. I think he's handled the pre-draft process incredibly. And if the Bears go and take him at 9, I'd be totally fine with it.
Yep.
Now, I think legitimately I would prefer to take, like, I've just been so in love with JSN for so long, and he went and ran a 4.48 today. We traded for DJ Moore, and I don't want him to go to someone else, but what do you think?
It's tough.
Do you think that the Bears take a receiver? There's any chance to take a receiver in the
man, it'd be so tough to take a receiver here. I like JSN too, and I know, he's going to be good, and I know, we just discussed how we don't think Ryan Poles is going to reach for need, but I just can't see them taking another wide receiver after trading for DJ Moore. You have Darnell Mooney under contract. You just traded a pretty high pick for Chase Claypool. I just can't see it. I don't know.
Actually, before we make a first pick, let's be clear. Are we doing what we think the Bears will do, or are we doing what we would do to the Bears? I'm happy to do either, but let's just set it, because if we're doing what we think they would do,
let's do what we think they will do, and then maybe closer to draft we'll do what we would do, and we'll compare the two.
As far as what they think they will do, it feels like this is Paris Johnson.
I would say that is probably the case. Yeah. The interesting thing, so he just pro day today, looked really good. He was the videos that I saw, he was taking a right tackle stance in a lot of those videos. So interesting that
he probably got asked from some of the people there, like based on some of the things he said about being willing to switch. They said, okay, let's see how that looks, because there have been some, in the last couple of years, tackles have come out and say, I know that tackles have been asked to do this for a long time, but it really isn't as easy as you'd think. I was saying that, I played volleyball in university. I was a left side for forever. When I got to university, they asked me to switch to right side, and just running and jumping and turning and moving toward a different way. It's a different skill that you have to relearn.
Yeah. The nice thing is that Paris Johnson did play right guard for the Buckeyes, so he at least has that experience. But yeah, if we're talking about what the Bears are going to do, I think it's, in this scenario, Carter's off the board, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson off the board. I think they would just go with Paris Johnson.
Before we lock it in, I will say, I think let's do it. Let's do Paris Johnson. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to do it, but what were you going to say?
I was going to say, for the fun of it, it might be more fun if this first time around we did what we would do and then just got crazy with someone like a Devin Witherspoon. But let's do it. Let's do what we think the Bears might do, so the fans can get an idea of what the team might look like come training camp.
We got 5 weeks to the draft.
We do.
We'll get some. We'll do that for sure. But I do think that would be a lot of fun to do. All right.
Okay.
Round 2. So
Adebaware right before us.
Right before that. That is a heartbreaker right there. But okay, so we got pick 53, 61, and 64 kind of right in
Yep.
right back to back here.
Right
So
here is
you have
right like, as far as Bears fans, if you're watching, the first round because it's on the Thursday night and it's a big deal, the Bears are going to make their money in the second round. They have 2 picks in that second round, and then on the second day they have 2 picks to end the second round and the first pick of the third round. I think they have 3 picks in about an 11 pick stretch. They're going to really, really change the dynamic of the roster in those picks, and Bears should really be dialed into this stretch of the draft.
Yep, absolutely. It wouldn't shock me if they traded up, maybe if they really love Ben Boyd, for example. It would not shock me at all because they do have all those picks from the trade. But we're not going to do that here. Before we go through who's available, I just want to go to offensive tackle. I know we're not going to take offensive tackle here. We just took Paris Johnson. But if we went a different direction, these would be the guys you'd be looking at: Matt Bergeron, Jalen Duncan. I actually really like Jalen Duncan at this point.
The 4 tackles available on the board right now, I love every one of them. I like Matt Bergeron, awesome. Cody Mock, I think he translates from a center all the way to a tackle. He's feisty. I think he fits what the Bears are looking for at the position. And I tweeted this today. I think everybody is a little bit too low on Blake Freeland, especially as a fit for the Bears.
I think he's a perfect for the Bears.
He's long, completely athletic, was incredible in the zone blocking scheme at BYU. And as far as a pass blocking, yeah, exactly. From a pass blocking point of view, his tape is some of the best in the country, man. It's so good.
Yep. So I included Blake Freeland in my article today with some offensive tackles that they could target later on. And yeah, he was a perfect fit. You see the zone grade 90.5. Really, really good. Pass block grade was 90.7. Now he didn't have a ton of true pass sets. That was the one thing, but he's so athletic for his size. He had a 9.8 RAS score or something like that. So athletic for his size, 6'8", 305 pounds. I think he's a perfect fit for the Bears. And he's getting, you can see here, his rank is 105, average draft position 86. Yeah. He's going to be a guy who gets picked in this 50 range. I'm pretty confident about that. Actually, guys just that big and that athletic, they go high.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that he's not on Grinding the Mocks. I think in future years, just the way that Grinding the Mocks is growing in popularity, they'll see, because right now they're only doing, if you're not familiar with Grinding the Mocks, I guess I'll say this. They basically just show you a flow chart of how people have been mocked in the draft. So you can see, for someone like an Anthony Richardson that went from early second round to 15th to a top 5 over the last 3 months. And it's almost like when you're getting the Vegas lines for things, if everybody is mocking people in these positions, especially NFL insiders, it's coming from some insight that they have. And to that point, someone like a Blake Freeland has really been coming up boards over the last little bit. He was a 4th round kind of category, even 2 or 3 months ago. And now I would be surprised if he could go in the 3rd, but I'd be surprised if he squeaks out of the 2nd.
I think he goes in the 2nd.
And so many players we'd be surprised if they squeaked out of the 2nd. I feel like we had this whole conversation with Zach Harrison when we were talking about edge players. There's only so many people that can be drafted, but I think from a grade point of view, I would be surprised if a lot of teams didn't have a 3rd or a 2nd round grade on Blake Freeland.
He reminds me a lot of Brian O'Neill, who the Vikings drafted a few years ago, a guy whose tape really wasn't that great, and he got drafted in the late 2nd round by the Vikings, and everyone was like, why did you draft this guy? That's way too high. And he's kind of developed into one of the better, young right tackles of the league. It might take Blake Freeland a few years, but yeah, he has all the potential in the world.
Okay, so let's look at people available.
Let's look at available. Okay, so obviously we're not going quarterback.
I think I don't know why he's not exactly getting talked about as much, but from a straight pass rush kit point of view, he's a really, really exciting player. I think, unfortunately, I think some of his best games came against maybe some bad competition, but I think he's a freak athlete. I really love his toolkit. I think you can even see it there. I was going to say he's kind of gotten better every year. Maybe 2021 PFF had him graded better, but I thought he started to mature year over year with his pass rush technique. And if you believe that to be the trend, then he could only be getting better going into the NFL.
Yep. I know when we had Montel Hardy on the pod, this is a guy that Montel really liked, and I wouldn't trust
Montel, a really good NFL draft follow.
Yep.
You're not already following him.
Yep. And I think with his stats and his grades, you got to take him with a little bit of a grain of salt, because he was not playing in a position that really suited his needs. He was playing more as a 5 technique inside the tackle shoulder. In the NFL, he's going to be playing outside the tackle and rushing from there. And I think that's going to really play to his strengths a lot better. So these grades, you gotta have to take them with a grain of salt with this guy. So you can't. I mean, I love PFF, but you can't boil production down to a single number.
It can't be your only evaluation technique. Now, the reason someone like that probably makes a lot of sense for the Bears right now is edge is 100% one of the biggest holes on the Bears right now. I know a lot of people like to talk about the offensive line, but the edge was one of our worst positions on the team last year, and we have done very, very little to address it. We signed Walker, who I think, is a high upside player that did all the things that the Bears would like their edges to do. But we haven't really added any like solid names, like solid veterans, high floor people to that room. And I think the Bears are going to be aggressive in addressing it in the draft.
Yeah. And I think Walker's going to play 3 technique a lot too. He's probably going to, move back and forth. So, if that's the case, if he's playing, 50% of his snaps inside or even more, then you really desperately need an edge guy. So Felix Anudike-Uzomah definitely in play with this pick. Who else we got? We got Luke Weipler. I think, let's see, Joe Tippmann. I think there were a couple centers here. Did what's his name go? John Michael Schmitz still on the board. So we got 3 centers. Let's just look at interior offensive line if that's the direction we got. We got Whippler, Tippmann, John Michael Schmitz. All 3 of those guys would probably be worth that pick. Interestingly, I actually have them ranked the opposite. I have JMS, Joe Tippmann, then Whippler. But
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, that seems to be kind of the consensus.
I'm surprised that, actually, to be fair, I'm a bit of a Weipler guy. Like, I think, me and you have talked about this a while. I'm a big fan of Weipler, so I don't think that it's crazy that he's the top person here. But I think that the majority of people that are really dialed into the draft have JMS at number 1.
Yeah, for sure. So he's still on the board. That would obviously be a great pick. We got Felix here. If we look at the interior line, I don't think Siaki Ika is a good fit for the Bears.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really consider him. Benton, I would love that.
Could make sense, but like we said, we have a bunch of picks in the next 10 picks. He could be there. It might be something that you maybe hold back on. I would say it's important to remember that we're doing what we think the Bears would do. So you need to pay attention to what polls has been talking about. And while I think that JMS would be a great pick, he's made some comments that they like Lucas Patrick like still on the team, and that we could see Cody Whitehair moving back to that position that you could argue is his natural position and maybe the position he played the best at in the NFL. I know to some extent, I feel like people sleep on this. Justin Fields and Cody Whitehair have a really, really good relationship. Some of those mic'd up games, like there's almost nobody that he's going to more, like in between plays and just talking about casually how the game's going. They do these funny, like I think they change up their handshakes before each and every game, and they're talking about playlists and stuff. I think they're fairly close, and that you can't underrate that kind of chemistry from a center to a quarterback position. So as much as I think we should add competition to that position, I wouldn't be surprised if the center room going into the draft, going into the season, was Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that, but I agree with what you said. I don't agree with their thought process.
If we were doing like Luke and Steve's draft, this is John Michael Schmitz for me.
Yeah, probably me as well. But I agree with you. I do think they want Lucas Patrick to take that job. They're going to have Lucas Patrick, Cody Whitehair kind of fight it out. I do think they'll probably draft a center, but I don't know if that's going to be high on their priority list.
You think,
so
the
second pick
as like a Joe Tippmann in like a 4th round or something.
Yeah, so with their second pick, I think they would lean more towards a pass rusher potentially.
I think so too. Pass rusher, defensive interior, or maybe even like a guard if it makes sense.
Or a corner. I'm not a big fan of Garrett Williams. So
see who you have for edge rushers.
All right. So we have Felix, we got Andre Carter. I'm not a big fan of Carter. Carl Brooks is more of an interior guy. Nick Herberg is like a 3-4 outside linebacker or an inside linebacker.
He doesn't have a position.
Yeah, Derek Hall maybe would be Isaiah McGuire. Kind of early for those 2 guys. I think Keon White, PFF moved him way down. He's getting some first round talk. He might go in the first round, but I do think he would be in the conversation here.
Yeah, he got a lot of momentum because Daniel Jeremiah put him as a top 10 prospect. And even Daniel Jeremiah has cooled off on that. I think he dropped him like 10 spots in his most recent big board.
I really liked Keon White's tape, and I really liked everything about him. And then I found out he was 25, and I've kind of soured on him since then too.
And then he came to the combine, and he wasn't really the freak that we were told he was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's kind of another guy who's a bit of a tweener. I think his best fit is probably as like a 5 technique in a 3-4. 2 gapping, 5 technique, which is not really what the Bears are looking for. So I think he could play like a 4-3 edge or even a 3 technique, but I think that 5 technique is probably his, best position in the NFL. So I think, if we're looking at these edge guys, for me, it's Felix by a long shot over all these guys.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's do it.
I think I just want to lock it in. I think that's a great pick.
No, I think it's a no-brainer. He's the best pass rusher available. It's a need the Bears want, and I think he fits the mold.
All right, so let's look who went. So right after that, we went Tippmann, Benton, who we discussed.
All 3 of the centers that I have top 3 grade on are gone now.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. I definitely thought we'd get one of those centers at 61. But hey, that's the draft. Sometimes the board doesn't fall the way you want it to.
Right? A bunch of centers went. That means that there's a bunch of edge players and a bunch of defensive interior players that didn't go.
Right. So let's look at just the defensive line. So under Carl Brooks is still there. Probably maybe a good 3 technique here. Derek Hall, Moro Jomo.
I like Andre Carter's tape. I like Andre Carter's tape a lot. I think for the way that he played, it was pretty bad for him to test the way that he did.
Yeah.
Because as much as you don't want to put too much weight into grading, it's pretty hard. You can kind of shoot up the draft by having a great combine, but I think to some extent, people have an easier time lowering their stock with bad performances than raising their stock with good performances. And as much as I like Andre Carter's tape, there were some worrisomely poor numbers on his testing.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm out on Andre Carter before round 5.
Okay, let's do it. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Army Black. Carl Brooks, I think to some extent, I think this is a PFF thing. I'd be surprised if he goes in the second round. He wasn't invited to the combine. His tape's good, but by the same merit, when he played against really good competition, I don't think he looked as dominant as some of his tape against the rest of the competition in the division is. I don't
100% agree.
He's not in play here.
Yeah, 100% agree. I actually don't really we just drafted edge. We discussed Herbig and Ika, not really good fit. Derek Hall, maybe. We did just take an edge. Yeah. Ojomo, I know we both like Ojomo. You really like Ojomo. Yep. I think he would maybe be in play here, but I still think that's a little early for him.
Ojomo, to me, feels like if you can get him in the 3rd or 4th, it makes sense. To be honest, on running on PFF's mock draft and PFN's mock draft simulator, he seems to fall the 4th or 5th. So I'm not rushing to take him here, especially considering when you look at the total draft, total board, I think there are better players available. So maybe defensive interior and edge isn't the spot at this pick. What about interior offensive line? I think
just go offensive line.
Yeah.
So we still have those 2 top. All those tackles did not go since our last pick. It would have been nice if one of those tackles went, so we can get one of those centers. But if we're looking at interior guys, Voorhees, obviously we both love Voorhees, but with the ACL injury, it's just
he might not get drafted, which is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like he'll still get drafted, but yeah, that's just horrible luck. If he was completely healthy, I would very much consider taking him at this.
I agree.
His tape's awesome. I think it'd be perfect.
He's a little old. I think he's on the older side, which it's not the worst thing in the world. Is a little fine, but I would say that taking Paris Johnson where we did makes it a little harder to take 4 of those top tackle guys.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same merit, man, if some of those guys keep floating around, when the 3rd round comes and goes, or even when we're picking at the start of the 3rd, you'd have to consider it. There's some of those interior linemen a little bit lower. I really do like Olu. I know you're a big fan of.
Yep, I like Olu. Not soured on him. I've come down a little bit on him, but I do like him. I'm not sure he's a great athlete, though. I didn't test any of that, so I don't know if the Bears are going to really love him if we're doing what the Bears are doing. I have to watch more Chandler Zavala.
Oh, dude.
He's getting a lot of hype recently, so I got to watch him.
I just did he is sick.
Okay.
He's nasty. But I don't, to be honest, he's nasty, and I would love if the Bears find a way to acquire him, but it doesn't look like any of the people in this O-line and offensive tackle people make sense right now at 61.
Yep. The only thing I would say, I agree with you, but the only thing I would say is with Jalen Duncan, I do think he is a guy who might move inside to guard, and I think he could be a very good guard.
I thought he isn't he crazy long?
He only had 33-inch arms, which was surprising.
Whoa! Isn't he 6'6" or 6'7" or something?
I think he was 6'5" and a half.
I could be way wrong here, but I remember I remember Jalen Duncan being
No, I was just looking at him today because I wrote the article about him. So he was just under 6'6", over 3 inch pounds, only 33-inch arms, but he's got a good anchor. He's powerful. He's athletic. I think. he could potentially move inside. But I agree with you. I don't know if that's the way they go. It's almost looking like we got to.
The thing to keep in mind too with that group, and I think we'll probably discuss it when we come around to the start of the third round, is someone like a Cody Mock might even translate better to a guard. So while they have tackle listed there, if the Bears are trying to fit valuation with evaluation, there's a need at the guard position on the Bears, and Cody Mock could definitely fill that. But I don't think that any of those offensive line are the choice right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Cody Mock is awesome. I think he's probably better off on the inside, so I think that could be in play. So it's looking like the needs aren't matching up, so we might just have to go like best player available. So
I agree.
That could be like corner, Garrett Williams.
When it comes down to like best player available, I think it's probably good for us to go and just check the positions that are of a strength. So let's go to tight end. This is a really strong tight end draft class. Yeah, see, that's unfortunate, man. That's like most of those top guys have kind of already gone. Sam Laporta's gone. Yeah. Kincaid's gone. Mayer's gone.
Yeah. I feel like this.
Wiley, I love. Mallory from Miami, I love all those guys. Yeah. You can get. It feels like you can get kind of fifth rounder pass. So I don't think tight end's a choice. What do we think about the receiver class right now?
Yeah. So I'm not drafting Dell this side. No way in hell.
I like a lot of these guys, and we can get into how much I love Perry in a bit, but I don't think he makes sense here either. Especially with the more trade.
Yeah, I just think the board just really didn't break our way. I like Zach Charbonnet a lot. I don't know if the Bears are willing to go to running back this high, but I think he's really good. And if
me and you were talking about this the other day, I actually love what the Bears have done with the running back room. I think it gives them the flexibility to not have to take a running back, but I don't believe that they won't.
Let's check what are the cornerbacks? I was just saying, it looks like there's some value at cornerback here. That's another very strong, very deep position. So Garrett Williams, I don't love
Garrett Williams, but
okay.
Man, he ran like a 4.6, didn't he?
Yeah, he ran slow, I'm pretty sure.
Dude,
I like Clark Phillips and Darius Rush a lot better.
Oh no, sorry. I had that backwards. Clark Phillips ran the really bad time.
Oh, you're
Which is unfortunate because, like, I was watching tape of Clark Phillips versus Jordan Addison, and I thought Clark Phillips ate his lunch, and I thought Jordan Addison was going to be one of the faster people in the class.
Yeah. So
Garrett Williams
isn't bad. Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson, more of a slot corner, but that could definitely be in play. Eli Ricks. We're probably out on Phillips if he's running a 4.6. Darius Rush, I really like. I think he possibly be in play. I like all these corners, most of these corners.
I do too.
Blue Kelly, DJ Turner.
Of the corners listed, I'm a sneaky Ricks guy. I would love Ricks. So Ricks transferred to Alabama this year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, but only got significant playing time this year. But I think from a traits point of view and like from a strict tape point of view, like I think he has the talent to be one of the best cornerbacks in this class.
I'm just looking up these guys' RAD scores because I'm curious. Did Eli Ricks run? No, he didn't run.
I haven't seen much.
But 6'2", 190 pounds, good size. I'm okay with go. If you like Ricks and you're confident about that, I think cornerback makes a whole lot of sense here.
So I think if the Bears added Eli Ricks to that room and you go into the season with Jalen Johnson, is Kindle Vildor on a contract?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Kindle Vildor, Kyler Gordon, and Eli Ricks, you're going to get good production out of that group.
Okay, let's go with Ricks then. Let's pull the trigger there. Go with Ricks. Mock just went. Rasheed Rice. So we're still.
Cody Mock went. Of course, it was the Eagles too.
Yeah. So that's a bummer. But if we wanted to go interior, like I said, I think Jalen Duncan could fill in there. Blake Freeland's not a possibility of going inside. Bergeron too, I think, is a solidly attack. Although this is very good value for Matt Bergeron here. I really wish we went a different direction in the top 10 because there's some good tackles.
Let's go plot around at some other positions, but man, Matt Bergeron still being there is interesting.
All right, what do you think about? We just took a corner. What about?
Let's look at the interior and edge.
Yeah, we do draft 2 edges for sure.
Add edge to that group. Yeah, 100%. If the Bears added 2 edges to this group, Bears fans should be coming away happy. We need competition at that room.
Mm-hmm. So Carl Brooks could be in play here. Derek Hall, Ojomo, Isaiah McGuire probably maybe in play here. I think that's probably where it ends.
So what are we so far? We're Eli Ricks, Paris Johnson, and
who did we take?
Oh, we took Ndike Azuma. Okay, we're cooking with gas right now. Paris Johnson, Ndike Azuma, Eli Ricks. 2 defense, 1 offense. We still need some interior offensive line. We still need probably because of the DJ Moore signing, you could probably wait to take a flyer on like a good athlete receiver later on. This feels like another pick where you can kind of benefit from taking best player available. So you just drafted Paris Johnson. I don't know if it's crazy if we come back and take a Matt Bergeron here.
I agree. I don't think that's that crazy. Another one I throw out. I know he's farther down here, but Zach Harrison. We both think he's going higher.
Dude, I'm with you, and I can tell you for a fact, if you don't take him here, you will not get him at the start of the 4th.
Right. I don't think there's any chance of him being there in the 4th.
I actually love you saying that. Without a doubt, if you want to punch that in right now, I'm totally fine with it.
I just remember that he always
Azuma and then doubled down with Zach Harrison. I would feel so much better about that pass rush group. I think him from a physical point of view fits everything that the Bears want. I actually struggle to find a whole lot wrong with his tape. And I saw someone breaking down today all like basically the other reasons why you should like Zach Harrison. And I'm really falling in love with him. Do you want to take him here?
I do want to take him. Yeah, I think that's it. And they were at the pro day today. They brought their defensive line coach. I think they're, like you said, he fits exactly what they want. Longer, bigger defensive end.
Someone in the comments has been dying for Siaki Ika.
Unfortunately, I don't think Siaki Ika is going to be a Chicago Bear next year, but you never know. All right, so Carl Brooks still on the board.
Let's lock it. Carl Brooks still on the board. I don't know if we can go 3 edges. You know what I mean?
He's more, but if you're going to play him on the interior, I think that would, if you're playing him as just a straight 3 technique.
Then we do like Carl Brooks, man. We do.
I think I would take Ojomo ahead of him, though, and he's more of a straight 3 technique. I like Isaiah McGuire, but you're right. We can't go 3 edges here.
Yeah, so we still would agree that we would probably like to add some competition to the interior. Should we look at some centers and some IOL first?
Yeah, let's look at just offensive line in general. So Voorhees is here still. Again, that's tough to take him, but like he would be such a good fit. Oluwatimi, if you want to go with the center, again, I don't know if he fits exactly. If we're doing what the Bears are doing, I don't think Oluwatimi is going to be high on their board.
Zavala, his value right now, you could probably wait to get him. I bet you come draft time, this will probably be the range that he comes in, just because he's one of those guys where it's like, not coming to the combine, people aren't exactly as familiar with you, and I bet you some front offices look at it as a little bit of a high risk, high reward idea. His tape is awesome. He's a good athlete. He's ferocious. I don't know if he makes sense here, but I would say if he's still floating around a pick or 2 later, I think that would make a lot of sense for us.
Okay, so it sounds like we want to wait on interior offensive line. Let's look at wide receiver. I know, we got Jaden Reed on the board, Parker Washington. We're out in Keyshawn Bode, I think, right?
Yeah, I am.
But I think Reed, Palmer.
Test better, but you can't test as badly as you did and then come away saying, I'm the first receiver in this draft.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, we're out there. But I think
if you wanted to take Jaden Reed here, I would.
I kind of do want to take Jaden Reed, but I want to see what else is out there. I love Jaden Reed. I think round 4.
And I actually really like Parker Washington too. I'm actually surprised that he's still there. But the problem with Parker Washington is he's a very high-low player. He has some plays where you're like, damn, that guy can be an NFL player. And then he has some plays where it's like, you just took the last 5 plays off.
Yeah. If we go back to corner, I don't know if they're going to draft 2 corners, but they got some good value here based on the rankings.
Caillou Blue Kelly has really shot up the board since the Senior Bowl performance. Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, he's actually a really fun player to watch. He's a little undersized, but that's okay.
Yeah. He's like real undersized, though.
Yeah, but to be honest, I actually liken his game a lot to someone that Bears fans would be familiar with. And now, for some reason, when the moment comes to say it, I can't remember his name. He went to Bryce Callahan.
Okay.
He gives me a lot of Bryce Callahan vibes. I think Bryce Callahan is, like, if you looked at the RAS comparisons, I think they're the same height and, 3 or 4 pounds off in weight. And I think they play a very similar game, like hard-nosed, plays bigger than they are, really quick twitch. But again, we have Eli Ricks, and to some extent, we invested a lot in that position in our draft last year. You can always take shots at that position, but you really do want to see what you have in the guys you took last year. So I think we're good at that position.
Do you think they would consider a running back here? I know we have Herbert and we have Foreman, but we don't really have a pass catching running back.
I know.
I think this would be like the start of where they start considering a running back. I don't know if they're going to go with basically a top 100 pick.
But when you look at the guys there, like, Tajay Spears, maybe as far as like a pass catching, pass blocking running back, we didn't see Dwayne McBride do it almost ever. It doesn't mean he's not good at it, but he wasn't asked to do it a lot. Tank Bigsby, not exactly that pass catching, pass blocking back. Kendre Miller, more of like a big power bruising back. It doesn't mean that he's not a great receiver, but he's not the guy that you want in that position, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the running backs that fit the Bears and what the Bears need are going to go later. So I think we can definitely wait on that. All right. So I think for me, it's between one of the interior defensive linemen, either Jomo or Brooks or Jaden Reed. So
that's a tough one.
I don't know.
If I had to say it, just because from like a grinding the mocks point of view of where I think we can get a Jomo, I'm fine to kind of chill on it a little bit, because if we can get him in the 5th, I think that's an awesome value. There's a really great story about the Steelers talking about when they had a draft where they drafted Lynn Swann and then another Hall of Fame receiver in the same draft. And they had a higher grade on the receiver that they took in like the 4th round, but they knew that they could get him there. So they took Lynn Swann in the 1st and then waited to get the 2nd one. And that's kind of what you have to keep that in mind in the draft. And that, like, you may have someone like an Ajomo higher on your board than a lot of the players you're willing to take in this position. But based on the conversations you have around the league and the understanding that you have when you've mocked these drafts out, you might have a chance of getting that player later, and you have to kind of leverage that when you're making your decision.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, I'm fine with going. You make the call, Brooks or Reed.
Brooks or Reed? That's tough. Brooks is such a project, but it's better. It's a smaller school. It's more of a position of need. But I like Ojomo more than Brooks. But like kind of like
when's our next pick? 133.
We got 133. So Ojomo could be there. Let's go back to D line, because I want to see if we
pass on Ojomo,
if we pass Ojomo and he misses him, and we miss him, we're gonna like Kobe Turner, Byron Young.
Player, maybe not a great fit. Kobe Turner, to be honest, I think is a little underrated, but he needs to be better as a pass rusher.
Byron Young is just solid, but I'm not sure he's exactly what they're looking for. Yeah, I mean, I like Jalen Redmond a lot.
Yeah, you can sneak in and get Jalen Redmond, but you don't want to have
be like a little later.
You want him to be your last ditch effort.
Yeah, you don't want him to be like a plug and play guy. So I don't know, but you can kind of say the same thing about Ojomo and Brooks too.
Here's what I'll do. I'll put it on the line and say, if we take someone else now, 133, Ojomo will be there and we can take him.
All right, let's go Jaden Reed then. Let's go Jaden Reed.
As much as it's not technically a need right now, I think everyone would be surprised about the people that are going to be out the door in 2 years. As much as people don't want to swallow the pill, I'd be surprised if someone like you can almost expect a Claypool or a Mooney to be gone.
Absolutely. They're not going to sign both of them. So I think it's kind of whoever has the better year this year gets the extension. The other guy you let walk for a comp pick. And then you're going to need another wide receiver. And maybe you take a wide receiver in the 1st round next year. You have 2 first-round picks, but you can't really bank on that. So I think having some good depth there is nice. And that's kind of how the board fell. He was one of the best players available.
And
I think
you're
wrong. He did go.
And tell you what, that is the nature of the beast. And I bet you like every year there are teams that have that comment. So we took him at 103 and he went
115. So just about 10, 12 picks later. So the board is not falling the way we needed it to fall. This is kind of falling
to be
apart,
fair, right now we got
We'll salvage it.
Yeah, I like our picks so far. I think we've done a good job addressing the edge. Having Zach Harrison and Ndike Uzomah is so fire.
Yeah.
I think Bears fans are going to be completely happy with Paris Johnson. And who else have we done so far?
Eli Ricks. We got a corner.
Ricks. No, I like our draft right now.
All right. I like it too. All right. Let's just round it out. So
we've got 2 others. Now we should probably try and hit the defensive interior if we can. Is there anybody that fits the
Zavala was still there. We can take him. Coburn and Clark are both zero tech nose tackles. We're not taking them. Jonah Tavai is an intriguing guy. He actually really, really productive pass rusher. Obviously a smaller school, but it fits that 3 technique. I think he'd actually be very intriguing.
I actually haven't watched any tape. Can you hold on? Click him. Can you go to like what's his build? You go to first look, yeah.
Yeah, he's short, he's like 6'2", 290. He's like short and stout.
Does he
but
play? Does he play like what's he play like 3 or 4?
the technique is that what you're talking about? Yeah, he plays like 3 technique. He plays on the edge a little bit too. They move him all around San Diego. Is that San Diego State, I believe? Yeah, San Diego State. They move him all around the defensive line. He's even, I believe, stood up. Sometimes it's like a 3-4 backer. That's obviously not what he's going to do. But he's a real high effort, high energy guy. But he's got some pass rush moves too. It's just going to be I think he'd be actually totally in play here, especially since there's not a whole lot. I mean, Jalen Redmond would be as a guy I like Jacob Slade too, but not as a 3 technique, as more of a 1 technique.
Click Redmond.
So
yeah, he had an awesome combine, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to.
He did have an awesome combine, a little lighter, 6'2", 291. But I do like him a lot. I think he was played out of position at Oklahoma. He played 0 technique for Oklahoma.
He did.
So he played and he at 290 pounds. So he was asked to do things that he's not going to be asked to do.
Maybe a 5 tech.
Yeah. So I think those 2 guys, if we're looking at the interior, we'll probably wait on.
There's no value for us. He's going to be a good player. Slade, I'm not sure if that value makes sense there too. Let's go check something else.
Yeah, let's look at offensive line. Just Chandler Zavala is still there. Jarrett Patterson could be a good fit. Juice Scruggs and Antonio Mafi, I like. Guy a little bit further down. I really like Braden Daniels and Carter
Warren is going to be a great player too, dude.
Yeah,
I really do.
Carter Warren, another guy I had in my article about day 3 offensive tackles.
What do you think about? Because to be honest,
I love Carter Warren.
I love taking Paris Johnson, but I don't mind the insurance at all of taking a Carter Warren layer too.
So I love Carter Warren. I think I have him as my tackle like 6 or 7. Yeah. So I'm very high on him. If he didn't get injured this last year, he got injured after like 4 games. He'd be definitely in the conversation more. I like him a lot, but I also really like Braden Daniels. Though,
we have 2 of the next 4 picks. It might even be worth us checking the big board and seeing who's the most likely person to get taken, and then taking like the person that we like afterwards. So Yasir Abdullah, edge.
Not a fit.
I'm not the biggest fan. I don't even think he's the best edge rusher on his team.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sean Tucker, if we wanted to go with the running back. Roshan Johnson.
Should we take a look at the running backs?
So we got Deuce Vaughn, if you're looking for a pass catching running back, he's pretty good. Sean Tucker, Roshan Johnson, all 3 of those guys can catch passes, can pass block.
Zach
Evans.
It's just a straight running point of view. Zach Evans is good.
Yeah, I like Eric Gray. Kenny McIntosh is probably the best pass catching back in the draft, I would say. So he'd probably be in play.
A couple of those guys that fit the mold, though, we can wait on, like you were saying.
I think with the way that this draft is going, I feel like we want to wait on running back just because we still haven't got an interior offensive lineman or interior pass rusher. So I think we really need to get those 2 positions here. So,
tell you what, I would. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. Do you want to go? I haven't watched a ton of them. I've only watched just a little bit, but everything I've seen on Twitter,
like I said, I've said this guy's he's like nasty, but I also think he's just scratching the surface of the player he's going to be.
I think we lock it in. We need a guard. Let's just do it.
Just add competition to that room, because I think the Bears, to some extent, may think that they already have their starting guards in Davis and Jenkins, but it never hurts to add competition to the room.
Mm-hmm. And Jalen Redmond just went, so we missed out on him. If we go back to D-line, we could still draft Tavai. I think that's a little high for him, but he's really the only 3 technique left. Dante Stills is okay, but it's Tavai, or we don't address unless maybe do they have someone who's listed as an edge who's more of a 3 technique. Sometimes they do that. Not really.
No.
I think Tavai should be in the conversation here just because it's a position of need. If we go to tight end, Josh Wiley, Will Mallory.
We
want to go.
It feels like we can kind of slip on him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree there.
Is there anything if
we want to go back to offensive line, we could take a Carter Warren or Braden Daniels. I like both those guys a lot.
I think
Andrews.
As much as last time I said it, we got bit in the ass for it. I think we could probably wait a round or 2 before we add that. But I would actually love to take another tackle just to make sure that we're not banking on Paris Johnson to be the savior.
Mm-hmm. If we go corner,
Mekhi Blackman is so underrated.
Yes, I agree. I like Mikey Bachman a lot.
I don't know because of the Eli Ricks choice if he makes a lot of sense. Yeah, 90.6 grade, 91 coverage grade. Okay, I'm actually so glad that matched up with what I thought watching him. I was so surprised that I didn't hear his name more when I started to put the tape on.
Yeah, I agree. He was one of like the first players I watched for some reason. But
is he 178 pounds? Is that what that said?
Yeah, I don't know if that's like his actual combine weight or what he was listed at. I'm guessing it's his combine weight, so that might be.
That's like some Emmanuel Forbes type stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of on the way up.
Nice.
So yeah,
I didn't know that PFF does the average draft position as well. Okay.
Yeah. Riley Moss, if we want to go corner, Kytrell Clark, more of a slot corner, who looked really good at either, was it the Senior Bowl or the I think it was the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. We could probably chill on cornerback with this pick.
Yeah.
If you want to go back to D interior there.
I just don't love this pick. I mean, I think he's an intriguing player, but I mean, I guess we are at pick 136. We're getting a little.
You know what? Okay, let's just go best player available, big board, and just scroll down until we find someone we both agree on.
All right. Go running back here. Yaya Diaby. If we didn't take two edges already.
He's an upside player. We did take two edges, but who are our edge rushers right now?
I mean, we also took an edge rusher last year. We took Dominic Robinson last year in the draft, so they obviously have a high
kind of in this range where it's like that upside range. So, like going if the season started today, our edge rushers would be Dominic Robinson, Travis Gibson.
Depending on where you put Walker, DeMarcus Walker, I don't know. But yeah, it's not. I mean, I agree with you. It's not.
I guess to be fair, it would also be Zach Harrison and DK Uzama.
Yeah. I wouldn't rule out three pass rushers as we stand right now. I do think they'll bring in a vet, but I wouldn't rule it out just as we stand right now.
Right.
But I don't know. There's not when I think we go with Tavai.
Let's do it.
Tackle. It's a position of need. He fits the scheme.
Yeah,
we're in the 5th round here. You know,
I told you I haven't been able to watch his tape, so I'm deferring to your judgment there. But from the first glance PFF stuff, you can't put all your weight into PFF, but you're also crazy to think that they're always completely wrong.
Right. I mean, he's not a perfect prospect by any means, but you're not getting any perfect prospects here.
Okay, so we've added a defensive interior that we like. We have two edge rushers that we like. We've added a cornerback that we like. We've added a receiver that I think makes that group so competitive. What else do we think we need? I mean, at this point, I think the Bears, if you're at this point in the draft, I think you've done a good job of making sure that there's nothing that's a huge glaring need on the team. And at this point, you can, take good scheme fits, good upside, best player available type players.
100% agree. I think we can go in really any direction here now. Just looking at the guys who are available, again, Yaya Diaby. I mean, at this point, you take a third pass rusher in the 5th round. That's not a big deal. Keaton Mitchell, we can go running back here, maybe.
Yeah, I think something like a running back or a tight end would really make sense here.
Okay, well, let's look at the running backs first. So Keaton Mitchell, Eric Gray, Kenny McIntosh. I think all three of those guys are more the change of pace, athletic pass catching guys. So I think all three of those guys would be good. Chris Rodriguez, Ibrahim are more of the early down rushers. So I don't think those guys are. So any of three of these guys would be good.
Low-key a freak athlete.
Who was that?
The North Dakota State fullback. He's low-key a freak athlete.
Yeah.
Very, very good football player. My only thing is that I was saying this to you yesterday. I actually really like our running back room right now. I think Dante Foreman and Khalil Herbert are excellent runners of the football, and I think Travis Homer is a fairly good receiving and pass blocking back that could probably benefit from an expanded role. It doesn't mean that I don't want us to take a running back. I do, but I think my thought right now is if Will Mallory is there, I'm fine with taking him.
I'm sure he is here, but yeah. So let's check wide receiver. Will Mallory is still there. I think that'd be fine. I'd be fine with that.
He could be one of those guys you wait to pick for. Our next pick is in 70 picks, though.
I'm just looking at my guys. So it looks like Braden Daniels went. Carter Warren is still there. I know you want another. If you want to
take Carter Warren here, I'd be fine with taking Carter Warren here.
So I think if we don't take him here, I don't think he's getting to 218. I think Will Mallory might, and maybe one of those running backs. So I think they're going to prioritize the offensive line.
I love that. I think that'll pacify a lot of Bears fans that are busting poles balls right now for not taking enough shots at the offensive line.
Mm-hmm. He's another guy who's super long, like over 35-inch arms. They're gonna like that. Maybe he's not an elite athlete, but I think he's got enough functional athleticism.
Yep.
He can't test obviously because he's injured. I really wish he could, but I think he'd be in play there. Okay, so now we're on to round 7. We got 2 picks left. This could be a position where they go with a quarterback.
I was going to say, you get the most hovering on Stetson Bennett. I do not hate that.
But Will Mallory is here too.
Oh, is he? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
He showed it at the combine. He's an awesome receiver. There's never an issue with adding weapons for Justin Fields, and he's that perfect complement to the player that is Cole Kmet.
I agree. And we only signed Robert Tonyan to a 1-year deal, so that will allow Mallory to sit in the practice squad for a year and then hopefully make an impact in year 2. All right, now we're looking at the second last pick in the draft. We got Hunter Luepke, the North Dakota State fullback. They need a fullback. Well, they have a fullback, but they use a fullback, so they certainly could draft another one. If we're just going through Dante Stills, this guy I like. That might not be a bad pick because we didn't love our 3 technique, so that might just get some more competition in there.
Yeah. Go if you want to go. Let's go check out defensive interior. Oh, Trey Tucker still. Wow.
Let's go to D-line. All right, so it's only Teron Vincent and Dante Stills. There's only 2 left. Both those guys are more of like a 3 technique, so I don't really love. I actually do kind of like Dante Stills. He's a really good run defender. I actually don't hate that pick at all.
Let's do it. I think, like we said, it's something that the Bears probably could have done a better job of addressing in free agency. There's been a lot of swirling talk about Ed Oliver, about the Bears, going out of the way to like maybe acquire a proven vet at that position. But the reason that conversations are happening is because all Bears fans can agree that we do need to add some competition to that room.
Yeah. Corey Trice is another guy I really like. Tested as an elite athlete at the Purdue Pro Day. So it could be. But yeah, let's just go with you okay with just going with that defensive lineman?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's round it out. I think that makes sense because like we said, we wanted to go interior defensive lineman higher. It just didn't work out that way. So now you get 2 guys in there. You let them compete for a backup role. So let's look at what we got. We got Paris Johnson at 9.
We got an F for Zach Harrison. I'll give it a break.
Yeah, get out of here, PFF. Paris Johnson at 9. Felix Anudike-Uzomah at 53. Eli Ricks at 61. Zach Harrison at 64. Jaden Reed at 103. Chandler Zavala at 133. Jonah Tavai at 136. Carter Warren at 148. Will Mallory at 218. And Dante Stills at 259. B+ grade according to PFF. I'd be okay with this draft. I don't think it's the best mock draft I've ever done, but if they came away with this haul, I'd be thrilled about it.
To some extent, though, you do need to appreciate that like it isn't going to fall the way it is, and sometimes you're going to find yourself in that situation. The Bears will find themselves in a situation where it's like, oh man, like we maybe like for example the Ajomo situation. Maybe we misplayed our hand here, and then you kind of have to roll with the punches. But think about it this way: the Bears fans right now, I think everyone would agree, we're not exactly happy with how they've addressed the tackle position. I think adding a Paris Johnson and then a Carter Warren in the 5th is awesome. I think that instills a lot of competition to that group. We wish we could have done a better job with the way we address the interior line. But with Nate Davis and a Chandler Zavala, who I think a lot of people, I think he's going to start popping up on people's radars more over the next little bit. I think that's a good thing. I think that's not so bad. I think everybody, like Bears fans, would agree that we probably need to add a little bit of competition to that cornerback room. And I love Eli Ricks there. He's one of my favorite cornerbacks in this draft. We knew we had to address the pass rushing situation, and legitimately Felix and Anudike-Uzomah and Zach Harrison are 2 of my, I can't believe we got an F for that pick, are 2 of my favorite pass rushers in this draft. I like this. I mean, I think
I don't think it's bad. I think, if we had to do it again, we'd probably take Ojomo over Reed if we had to do it again. But, it's not the end of the world.
Or even like a Keanu Benton over Eli Ricks.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have definitely done that.
I think
that probably would have been the play.
I think once the draft plays out, and I think the Bears brass is doing this where they mock these out to kind of get an idea of where they can hit things hard. Like if we had done this 10 times out of 10, we'd realize that, in that 2nd to 3rd round, maybe that's our defensive interior spot if we hadn't taken one in the first 2, because there is some really good top end talent. But once we decided to take Paris Johnson, that made our decisions a little less easy. I think. Mm-hmm. Jaden Reed was because we both love him, but do we need a receiver at that 4 spot? Maybe not. Maybe you can wait and get like a Michael Wilson from Stanford a little bit later on. Although to be honest, he's shooting up boards as well. But I don't think that there's a player that we took here that I wouldn't be happy with being on the Bears roster.
Yeah, and we also got to think about when you start getting into past pick 100, you're not talking about guys who are going to compete, who are going to really make an impact this year. Those guys are going to be depth pieces at year one at best, most likely. Or at least they should be. You shouldn't be finding starters on day 3 every year because you should have your roster filled out. So these guys, we got to lower our expectations for these guys who are drafting outside the pick 100.
But I think we did a good job in kind of like taking a person that I think we're sure of and then almost compounding that with a player that we think has a lot of upside. So like take an Adike Uzuma and then take a Zach Harrison, take a Paris Johnson, but then come back and take a Carter Warren.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we did a good job. We'll definitely do more of these, obviously.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be more fun when we do the what Steve and Luke would want to do, because then we can get a little crazy with it. But
yeah,
this would absolutely help the Bears be the team that we want them to be in 2023.
Absolutely, I think and I think this is a good representation of what to kind of expect. As Poles said himself, you're not going to fill all your holes in one offseason. Yeah. Even if we don't necessarily agree with that, he could have done that if he went different ways in free agency, but I think the way they're standing, they're probably going to come out of the draft with probably a pretty big hole somewhere, whether it be offensive tackle, defensive tackle, cornerback, edge, whatever it is, we don't know. But it's what would you say is
the biggest hole in the roster right now?
I would say probably between edge and
defensive line. Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. Edge or defensive tackle. So that's something.
I said offensive tackle, but.
Oh, offensive tackle. So who are we starting at offensive tackle?
I mean, we got Braxton Jones on the left side. I'm fine with that, but I don't think we have a right tackle on our roster.
No, we don't. You're right. Right tackle is the biggest hole in the roster.
Yeah.
Because there's no answer to it right now.
Larry Borom is not there.
We have 3 different okay answers for center, guard, and guard, but there's no clear answer for right tackle. So I think Paris Johnson is like, despite the fact that we think that once the first 4 or 5 picks played out, we probably didn't do a great job of addressing some of the pass rush. Paris Johnson makes a lot of sense there. And 2, this was the one where we're doing what we think the Bears might do, and there has been a lot of Paris Johnson smoke over the last couple of weeks. And when there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, and if we're doing what the Bears, we think the Bears will do, they mentioned premium positions. We went premium positions with our first 4 picks, 5 picks, depending on how you view wide receiver, which I do view as a premium position.
And I think based on like what Poles has said and the DJ Moore move, I think he views it that as well. And actually, man, now that I'm looking at this and like reviewing how he went, Paris Johnson, Philae and Duke Azama, Eli Ricks, Zach Harrison, Jaden Reed, and Chandler Zavia for your first 6 picks is fire. I know a lot of people, like, the draft is one of those things where if you're not really dialed into the draft and you're only hearing the big names that all the talking heads on ESPN and such say, you may not appreciate these kind of picks, but these are some really, really quality first 6 picks.
Yeah, I agree. I think we did a good job.
Not the worst.
Right. Not the worst. I've done better. I've definitely done worse.
I've done better. You have those drafts, like we were saying, like when you did a mock draft before where where Will Anderson fell to 8, and it's like sometimes you have those drafts where you get the crazy person falling.
You never know. Well, we'll definitely do more of these. Like we said, we'll do the what we would do in the future. We'll definitely be doing this, doing some sort of pod every week. So stay tuned. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, share the podcast. We really appreciate everyone listening, everyone supporting us. It's been fun, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
Cool. Right. Bear down.